figure out who you want to be, number one. Because if you don't know who you are, then forget about it.
Yeah.
Figure out who you want to be. Number two, find the person that is doing what you want to be doing and go straight to them.
All right, everyone, welcome to Visions to Ventures season 2. For me, it's a great honor to start off season 2 here with a good friend of mine. We go back. Before we started, I kind of wanted to bring him down memory lane, so I called him Goot the Boot. But
Damn.
he's the one and only DJ. He's a great friend. I mean, he's a brother, right? Because Marines and all that. So, but yeah, it's a great episode. It's gonna be here. So I'm gonna go ahead and let him introduce himself, and what he does, who he is, and anything else they want to throw in there.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm excited to be on here. Like you said, we go way back. I'm no longer Goot the Boot anymore, so I don't got to worry about that. But no, so my name's DJ. I'm the owner of Beyond the Keys Realty. We are a real estate company who focuses on residential purchases, commercial purchases, developments as well. We're brokered by EXP Realty. So, I've been doing real estate for the last 6 years now, and I'm excited to run a company, run it my way. I see a lot of people in the industry do it very like copy and paste, but I'm excited to do it my way and see where that gets me.
All right, man. Yeah, and I mean, you're not gonna believe it, but every time I have realtor friends, I'm always like, hey, my my friend from San Diego, this is how he's doing it, because. And so for me, I'm always kind of referring back to you, like, hey, so just kind of, and I'm not, just saying that.
Yeah. No, thanks, man. Thanks. I get I get a lot of compliments as far as like the way I'm running my business, but what people don't see behind the scenes, bro, it's a grind, man. It's a grind.
Yeah. Well, the one thing I always bring up is I remember you got a truck rental. I don't know if you still do that, right?
Oh, man, yeah. The buy with me and move for free, right? Remember that? Yeah. No, dude. So I don't know what happened. I think I was on Instagram and I was scrolling one day, and then I got in like a real estate company. Like I wouldn't say a real estate, I would say a moving company. So a moving company had a bunch of moving trucks, right? And it buy with me, move for free, all these things. And I'm like, bro, like, why not, right? Like my brother-in-law owns a moving company. I think he's the one who had the truck, sitting in his yard or whatnot. And I was like, well, I don't need to go and buy one from this company. I just buy it off of him.
Yeah.
I completely branded it, put a big picture of me with his soul key, and like, yeah, bro. And that's it brought in some business. I actually that truck alone, just off transactions, whether buy, sell, referral, at least four transactions.
Yeah.
So a total of like 10 grand, brought in roughly 40, 50 grand on the return.
Wow.
So,
and I also want to mention too, you also did like little giveaways, right? Spot the
yeah. So yeah. I know you're going back. I mean, I don't have the truck anymore, right?
Yeah.
So I laugh about it because it's like how it's coming back full circle. But for the most part, yeah, I mean, because I've always been big on social media, right? So like, well, no, I wouldn't say big. I would just say my focus has been social media because, I got into real estate 6 years ago, which is roughly 2018, 2019. Instagram and Facebook wasn't really like popping. TikTok didn't exist. Like, and me being young, fresh out the Marine Corps, one thing that we did do well, I think in the military is connect on Facebook, and then slowly started getting into Instagram and started connecting. So, I can't keep up with these people who's been in the business 15, 20, 30 years, right? I mean, who am I? Like, and then you have the whole stigma, like, dude, I was just partying with you in the Marine Corps. Like, now you're coming out and selling me a $300,000-$400,000 home. Like, it just didn't make sense, right? So I had to figure out how to connect with people. And one thing I did really good at was social media, because that's what I grew up in. I'm a millennial, Facebook, video games, that's my realm. And so I started noticing what a lot of people, with the influencers, they do giveaways. And I mean, who doesn't want free shit, right? So can we cuss on here?
Yeah. I think it's explicit, so you can go.
Okay. Yeah, so who doesn't want free stuff, right?
Yeah.
So like, I would be like, hey, you see my truck going? take a picture, tag me, you get put in a raffle, and you get some dope stuff. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Which kind of like actually like began the springboard of like my how I run my business today with giveaways and
Yeah.
referral programs and things like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Then it's good stuff, man. So,
Yeah.
but what kind of, you said 6 years ago, but what kind of all started that? Like, you always wanted to do realtor, or was it just kind of, real
No,
estate?
it just I mean, so it kind of just fell in my lap, right? So you know, you're gonna trip out on this. So, you know, me and you were at Miramar together, right? It's
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
first duty station, right? So, joined the Marine Corps 2009, 2010. I get stationed in Miramar. I'm at Miramar for 2, 3 years. Not sure if you remember this, but Gunny Smith, the QA
Yeah. Yeah.
Gunny, he went over to be the monitor for like all the admins for E5 and below.
Okay.
And right before he left, I guess the Marine Corps was really pushing. They called them single Marines. So if you had no kids, or if you're just freshly married but you're E4 and above, they were sending them to I&I duties, right? So like,
Hmm.
you know, you had the recruiting duty as admin, you all these places,
Yeah.
right? And so, you know, because we were sister shops, right? He was QA, I was outbound. He came over and he was like, "Hey, man, like I'm gonna give I'm calling all the E4s and above into a group, and you know, I'm gonna need a volunteer. And if you do me this favor, if you volunteer, you can pick between 3 places: San Francisco, Alaska, and I think it was like Idaho or some shit like that, right?" And I was
Uh-huh.
like, "Definitely ain't going to Idaho.
Yeah.
Well, Alaska's like 30 days of night, so like I don't know about
Yeah.
that." And I was like, "Oh, San Francisco, right?" And my wife has a family in San Francisco, right? So, and I'm like, "Dude, it's still Cali, like, you know,
Yeah.
like I can catch a Dodger game still, like I'm still, you know what I mean?"
Yeah.
So he called everyone in. He's like, "Hey, I need a volunteer," and I was like, Goot the boot. He over
Good
here,
to
like, you know,
reporting.
reporting for duty. You know what I'm saying? That was me. That was my mo, right?
Yeah.
So he was like, he's like, pick a place: San Francisco, Idaho, or Alaska. And I was like, San Francisco. He's like, cool, you got orders. You know, come talk to me later. And then like a few other people started raising
Yeah.
their hand, and it kicked off. But I remember, bro. He always told me, he's like, I got you. Like the next time you come around, you go do your 3 years. I got you, right?
Hmm.
So I'm like, okay, whatever. I'm in San Francisco. San Francisco was eye awakening because, you know, we're, you know, swinging with the wing, right? We get in the military. Everyone wants to talk about the difference between ground units and infantry,
Yeah.
you know, wing, and you know that was us. And you know, a lot of our friends got to deploy. That was very rare.
Yeah.
You know, we were. Did you go on that deployment?
No, I didn't.
Yeah,
Did
me
you?
either. No, bro, I wanted to, but you
Yeah.
know, I low key, I feel like they only let the people that they didn't want around go. You know, I was like, like,
It's like we
you
lose
know,
it. So they wanted us or what?
I guess, you know, I'll take it. I'll take it, right?
But
So
yeah.
then, so you know, everyone did their deployment, whatever. So, but when I went to San Francisco, it was like a whole introduction to like the real Marine Corps, right? Is what they would call it. Like,
Mm,
you know, you had your first in command was Sergeant Major, second in command or the CO, Sergeant Major, and then
mhm.
the XO. So like we naturally reported to a captain. Never had to report to captains. Always been chief warrant officers
Yeah.
who were prior enlisted.
Yeah.
So it was like it's different, right? And then all the people on recruiting, there were grunts, like all the people that don't get that can't get promoted because they needed that for promotion. So it was different, and it was a little difficult because I went in as a corporal, youngest person Marine on the totem pole. Everyone else is disgruntled 8-year sergeants from the
Yeah.
infantry. You know, my really good friend now, Sergeant Gomez, Victor Gomez, he got out. Him and his wife do real estate too, actually. And he came from like he came from 29 Palms. You know, 2 3 deployments under his belt. So like I'm like, dude, I know admin, but like they know like
Yeah.
deployment shit. You know what I mean? So it was real awakening, right? So whatever, I'm doing my time. 3 years comes. And ironically, the Marine Corps was downsizing from 106,000 to
Mm,
100,000. So not only did I have to recruit, that's how I got promoted. I went out and recruited a couple guys, add to my little point record,
yeah.
right? Recruited. I did career planning, you know, so I had all these sergeants, staff NCOs, and you know, advising them on their career. So, anyways, long story long, the Marine Corps comes down and says we're downsizing. If you've been passed over on promotion or you had X amount of years in the Marine Corps, you're out, right? So I had staff sergeants, gunnies, sergeants coming in and just like, hey, here you go. Like you got six
Yeah.
months, you got 1 year, like you got an EAS, you know? And then so right about this time, it was time for me to transition. So
Yeah.
trip out on this. Gunny Smith, I give him a call. Hey, Gunny, it's time for me to transition. Check it out. I wanted to lap move into drone units, right? Into flying
Okay.
drones. So I convinced my XO to send me to Miramar to take that little ASVAB course.
Uh-huh.
Fuck that up. I completely failed, right? Again, right? They were like, sorry, you can't qualify for a lap move. So I'm like, whatever. So then I'm looking at the like people who are transitioning out.
Uh-huh.
Sure and behold, bro, Hawaii, E5, drone unit admin, transferring the same day I'm due to transfer. I'm like, easy day, right?
Yeah.
I fucking call Gunny Smith. I'm like, Gunny, you remember that favor? Send me to Hawaii. Let's call it a day. And he's like, well, where else can you send me? I'm like, I either want Hawaii or I want some like MSG admin type shit, right?
Yeah.
Like put me in, um, anywhere in the country. But
Yeah.
I don't want fucking North Carolina, right? I don't want Japan. Like I don't want none of these places. Like send me to some like some dope shit, right?
Yeah.
Bro, I get an email orders in the system. I'm like, oh shit. So I get to the office, I log in, G3, Okinawa, Japan. I'm like, what the fuck? Bro, so I'm like pissed, right? Fucking phone rings. Corporal Doherty's calling me.
Oh,
Samantha, right?
yeah, 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 I
Yeah.
know.
She's like, what's up, Goot? I'm like, what up? She's like, so you're taking over my job. I'm like, fuck, I am. I'm like, no, like, hold on. So I go to Sergeant Major, really good guy. Sergeant Major Lichty. He was really, really, really solid Marine. And he was like, hey, let me call Gunny for you. He calls Gunny, and he's like, bro, you can't do nothing. You're going to fucking Okinawa. I'm like, dude, like, I'm not trying to go to Okinawa. So then I talked to my wife, and if we're like, well, what if you get out? And I'm like, well, like, this is all I know, right? I'm
Yeah.
17 years old, 6 years in. If I transition to Okinawa, minimum 3 years because I'm married, puts me right at 9, 10 years. Like, might as well stay in for the rest of the
Good,
20,
yeah.
and so we're just chatting it up, and she was like, well, I mean, we'll figure it out, right? So I'm like, okay. So I'm like, how am I gonna get by this, right? My freaking staff sergeant, Jose Esquivel, solid dude. He dropped his papers, right? Any 13-year or over can apply for early retirement, and they'll let them retire at 15 years, right? So like he dropped his papers, and he's like, I'm out. So like you're on your own, buddy. And then so I'm like, dude, like what do I do? And so I'm just brainstorming like shit, like what can I do? But I forgot the Marine Corps was downsizing, right? So I was like, well, if he just dropped his papers for retirement, the Marine Corps was saying if you're a 6-year sergeant, then you can EAS with a bonus because they're trying to downsize
Mhm.
as long as you had honorable discharge, all that fun
Yeah.
stuff. And so I was like, oh, cool. I got honorable. I got this. I got that. I was like, right there with you, Staff Sergeant. Let me fill out my paperwork, And
Yeah.
so I filled out my paperwork. Sergeant Major's like, is this what you want to do? And I'm like, like I'm good. Like I'll figure it out. The new our old CO transitioned back to First Marine Division, back to infantry. We got another CO, but this one was more. I think it was supply or like air wing, so he's a little different, right? Like
Yeah. Yeah.
so he understood like my mindset, right? So we had the conversation. He signed me eligible for discharge honorably, all good. So then I got to go to Temps and Taps, right? Got to do the whole dog and
Yeah.
pony show. I signed up for the one at Miramar,
Yeah.
to see all the old homies,
Yeah.
because a lot of the Marines were still there, all the younger ones growing up. And so like, so I'm just trying to figure it out, right? And like, I come up to Friday, what 3:15, 3:30. The guy in charge, I think he's a career planner or whatever it was like, hey, they're gonna teach you about the VA loan. And I'm like, oh, okay, nice. What's the VA loan, right? They're like, oh, it's the housing loan. So the housing department, the veteran service comes in. They're like, all right, guys, here's your VA class. Call 1-800-VA. Have a good day.
What?
It's like, yeah, like what the fuck? Like that's it, right?
Yeah.
And then so at that time my uncle was in loans. And I'm like, hey, like, have you ever worked with VA? And he's like, oh, it's very rare. Like, we don't really do that services. And so then I just started thinking, right? And then my wife was like, hey, like, have you thought about getting into real estate? And I was like, oh, like, no, I haven't. And, right around this time, like $1 million listings coming on,
Yeah.
like real estate is starting to pick up. And she's like, yeah, I mean, like, you're always giving classes with the Marine Corps, because at admin, you had to run operations, you had to run training, and then we had to sit in the recruiting, and I would like hate it. We had this master guns and this RI department. They're like, if the recruiters have to learn it, everyone, supply, admin,
Mm.
everyone has to learn MC3 skills, right? Like the selling
Yeah.
skill. And I'm like, bro, when the fuck am I gonna learn how to sell some shit? Like I'm just sitting behind the desk.
Yeah.
Like I think I applied for police dispatch, right? Like answer
Huh.
the phone and like dispatch.
Dang.
Yeah, I did I was like, cause I didn't want to be a cop, you know what I mean? Like I just it is what
Yeah.
it is. And so I did that, and then so sure enough, like we just started getting into it, and then the real estate school paid for TA, so TA paid for the real estate school. So I like knocked out my classes, and I was like, oh shit, like I still got my GI Bill. They
Yeah.
paid for my schooling, so I got out. I mean, the Marine Corps still got theirs. They EAS me in September. My 6 year mark was October.
Okay.
So they honorably EAS me, no bonus. But whatever, it is what it is. So I get out, and then my uncle introduced me to his really close friend. That's a real estate agent. Her name's Martha. We still keep in contact today. She gives me a lot of tips and advice.
Yeah.
And then so she introduced me to this lady named Victoria, who deal a lot of VA, because San Diego, you naturally have a lot of military.
Mm. Yeah.
So I was like, well, I haven't passed my test yet. I'm still like waiting for the state to give me my test date. I'm like, what do I know? I know admin, right? And the Marine Corps in San Francisco, I was basically just the sergeant major and the CEO's just like assistant. I would book them flights to Guam. I would do their travel itineraries, drive them to the airport, drive them to
Yeah.
little RS stations. Like I'm just a glorified assistant, right?
Yeah.
And then get the morning report in the morning. Like you're just
Yeah.
an assistant, bro. So then I was like, well, I can be your assistant, right? She was hiring. I was like, I could be yours. And then I just started catching on, bro. Like I just started seeing like, oh, she's talking to military. She didn't really understand the lingo because she's not military. I'm like, oh, dude, I can bring a whole nother aspect to this,
Mm.
you know? And then when I'm listening and seeing what she's teaching, her husband was a lender. I'm hearing what he's, putting down. And I'm like, dude, like they didn't teach us none of this stuff
Yeah.
in temps and taps. And to be honest, I thought it was a veteran loan, but there's active duty getting it, like, bro, could you imagine, back in 2009, 2010, when you're stationed in San Diego, since you're married, you're getting BH. Could you imagine buying a house, instead of being like, in a rental in a condo? Like,
Dude, that
bro,
would. Yeah.
like I really think about that. And I got married in 2010, and we just what does everyone do? Move off base, a minimum 30 miles away, right?
Yeah.
Like just get the far
Yeah.
away if you can from base. But dude, houses at that time were 300,000 in San Diego.
Yeah.
Like now they're selling for 700,000, 800,000, some places 1 million. Like, could you imagine what we would have on as an exit of the Marine Corps? Like, oh, I'm getting out, I'm selling my house, and instead of forcing ourselves to go to school and figuring it out, what if we had like a cushion to fall back on,
Yeah.
which is 200, 300K, and like I'm like, dude, most of the people I know in the Marine Corps, they haven't even seen 100K in their bank account.
Yeah.
Maybe if you went on deployment, you might see a little 50, 60, but then you get back, you got your new car, your rims. Like, we don't know. We're not educated. And it's not our fault. It's just we're the higher ups are the ones telling us all this stuff. And most of them live on base housing.
Yeah.
Most of them don't own homes. Most of them don't know what
Correct.
it's like outside. So how can they teach us? Right. And that's just, to me, that's just the system, right? The flawed system. So then I'm like, dude, like, why don't I just be an advocate for VA? Help people build wealth through real estate. Got into it. Just started picking it up. First year in real estate. Took me about 6 months to get my first transaction. Once I did, I ended up with 12 transactions after that.
Wow.
Second year, it was somewhere of like 15, 16. Third year, I hit my Kobe year, 24 transactions. Fourth year after that, I just balls to the wall, figured it out,
Yeah.
50 transactions. And then just last year, we just did about 40 transactions. So, from conception to now, we've sold over 230 properties from the border all the way up to Menifee, which equivalents to about 230 million in real estate sold.
230 million? Jeez,
Yeah,
man.
yeah. Not income. I mean,
Yeah.
overall properties adding up.
Yeah.
5,000 here, a couple million here. About 230 million, bro.
That's
Yeah.
great, man. That's good.
Yeah.
That's man. And I want to go back to, because like if when you mention, especially submarines that were like, for me, right? I had 3 roommates.
Right.
I would have known what I known, like what dude,
Yeah,
paying like I would have had so much. I had extra money that I could be buying a property while
yeah,
I'm there, possibly either in California or here in Utah. So I mean,
yeah,
I think that's valuable information that was missed, but that you kind of figured out and made it uh successful for you. Because you're like, hey, I got this. I'm gonna start learning. But then also brings me back how you were like you were kind of like listening in to like a realtor, you were
yeah,
absorbing everything,
yeah.
it's
Well,
like
I
you
knew I was
putting
gonna
in
have
that
to
work.
start at the bottom. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Putting in the work. Hey, whatever. I gotta fucking plunge out toilets. Run to the dry cleaner, pick up some kids. Be like, if I gotta grind it out, whatever. But whatever I'm gonna learn, I'm just, the Marine Corps taught me, a lot of things. But two things
Yeah.
the Marine Corps taught was your higher ups, right? You take what they do, whether you like it or you don't like it. You
Hmm.
take what you like, you make it yours, and if you
Hmm.
don't like it, you just don't do it, right? And then that's how kind of we became our NCOs, the corporals, the sergeants, and we took like from the people we liked and the people we didn't like. We're like,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna do that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, so it's just I just applied it. I
Yeah.
literally just applied it.
And then 230 million. I mean, like you think about it, 6 years, 230 million. It's just
Yeah,
like it's a great accomplishment, and it kind
thank
of
you
I mean, but I want to go first of all. Shout out to your wife. You know,
for
you
plugging
owe
me.
her. You owe
Yeah,
you owe her your life. At this
yeah,
point.
I do. My
So,
life, my career, everything. Yeah, yeah.
but
She
I
held it
mean,
down.
yeah, and it's that's kind of what I was mentioned in the beginning is this is why I want to be able to document, like show that to people, like it's possible. You know,
Yeah.
you work hard
Anything's
and
possible.
yeah.
Yeah, facts. Anything is possible, and we get so caught up on other people, right? And I
Mm,
think social media has been a blessing and a curse, right? Social media made the world small, but we also think we know success, right? And what we fail to realize is people only post what you want them to see. So, we see successful people and we're like, oh my God, they're killing it. But you don't see behind the scenes or see behind that, right?
yeah.
So, it's a blessing and a curse because you just gotta figure it out your way and then and maximize all the tools that we have, bro. There's so many tools from AI to, I mean, dude, you're in fucking Utah, I'm in San Diego,
Yeah, we're
we're
doing this. Yeah.
coordinating this. It's like, it's dope.
Yeah. I'm gonna go follow up on AI later because I know, just your recent post that you showed, and for me it was like mind blowing. But I'll bring that up, you know.
Yeah.
But I mean, I just want to say, killing it, man. And
Thank you.
so,
Thank you. Appreciate that.
but before I go up to like the AI, so when you were starting off, was there I mean, kind of the basic question, right? Like, what was the challenge like you saw when you were starting off
Yeah.
as a realtor in the real estate, especially it can be California or just in general.
For me, I faced a lot of challenges, right? What at 22 years old, 22, 23 years old. People would like to say no life experience, right?
Yeah.
Marine Corps, I mean, in the Marine Corps, my day was scheduled to the minute, right? From the time you get up to the time you eat to the time you PT to the time you go home, all of those things, right? And so, one challenge for me that I had to figure out was life experience. How can I sell myself where I'm just as good as the next guy who has 10 years experience, who has 15 years experience, right? So, it took me 6 months to figure it out. One thing that I was very smart to is I'm okay with criticism. In the Marine Corps, like they're going to tell you whether you fucked up or not. Even if you did it
Yeah.
right, they're going to tell you fucked up. So I'm okay with that. So I joined coaching programs. I put myself out there as far as everything goes, and as far as calling, selling. I even tell people, look, I'm gonna be honest. You're going to be my first client. Do you want to take this journey with me? And if you do so, I'm guarantee you it's going to be good because I'm going to do everything I can to make sure one, it closes because that's how I get paid, and two, you're going to tell other people about me,
Hmm.
right? Because the name of the game is referrals. So, and two, I would use this like it went out of style. I was like, how many Fortune 500 companies started in a garage? You got Apple, you got Mac Computer, all these places, they started in a garage,
Yeah.
right? At least I'm starting in an office, with a team with some experience. So just
Yeah.
I just leverage myself, bro. Like, I feel like, I feel like I'm funny. I feel like people like me, right? So like, why not just be myself? And it kind of helped me to today, where I only want to work with people who want to work with me, who
Hmm.
who know me, who like me, who trust me. That's it. And if you don't like the way I look, if you don't like, because I never once was a suit and tie type of guy,
Hmm.
right? Like I'm like, dude, I'm wearing a hoodie, like I wear Yeezys, like I'm just me. And if you
Yeah.
don't want to buy a house because of the way I look, not based on my experience and my knowledge,
Hmm.
right? Then do I really want to work with you?
Yeah.
So I just went after people that wanted to work with me. A lot of military. I would say 99% of my clients in the first 2 years were all military, because I understand the lingo, I understand the pay scale, I understood them as a whole. And so once I got past those challenges of just getting myself out there, the rest was history.
Yeah. But I think that staying true to yourself, right? Like doing you, like being you, knowing like, okay, if I dress, you know, in a suit and tie or whatever, even if I'm in just, what I like to wear comfortable, I'm still going to get you results no matter what,
That's all that matters. At the end of the day, results. That's all people
Yeah.
care about. Results. As long as I don't show up butt naked, I'm good. Like, give me some results. I mean, but like, you're still professional.
Isn't
You're
there some
still,
parts in San Fran that they allow that though? You good, right?
yeah, yeah.
It's-
San Fran, San Fran does.
it's- oh man, no, that's good, man. Um,
Yeah.
so talking about, also mentioning, you know, just connecting with people.
Mhm.
Like, how do you like how can you like discuss the importance of like networking and just within the real estate, and how
Yeah.
effective is networking?
Yeah. No. I'm probably not the right guy to ask that, to be honest. Because no, and hear me out on this, right? Hear me out. Like, I get it. There's a lot of agents that say, "Oh, you got to go to the networking events. You got to go to the happy
Yeah.
hours." But like, bro, like I don't go to happy hours. I don't go to the networking events. Look, if the majority of the people in the room do the same thing you do, why do you want to be in that room,
Mm.
right? I want to be in the room where um, people aren't in real estate. So I'm the only realtor in the room, right?
All
I
right.
want to be
Okay.
I want to be in the room where um, people who are actually there because they put in the work, right? What I come to realize, a lot of these networking events and these social events, it's just an escape. And I was taught very young in my career, put in the work, right? Like, prospect, hit the phones. I think my first year we called over 15,000 people, right? One of a good friends that I know now, he's the head operations for a very successful team. Like,
Mhm.
I close 30 to 40 deals a year. They're closing like 700 deals a year,
Wow.
and he runs their operations. And it was a Friday at like 4:30, and I cold called him on a Friday, and he's like, "Bro, aren't you in real estate? Like, what are you doing in the office?" I'm like, "I'm working." Like, like my bills aren't going to get paid
Yeah.
themselves. My goals aren't going to get paid themselves. I tried the whole networking events. Most people were sitting around talking about their clients or have a long day. And I've always thought I've been different. I never really needed an outside source for validation.
Yeah.
I don't need oh, I had a bad day. Let me go take a shot or get a drink. Like, no, I mean, if everyone has their vice, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's just not my vice. My vice is hitting goals. Like I grinded, bro. Like, when I mean grinded, like no birthday parties, no family functions, 7 days a week, every day, just grinding, grinding, and grinding, and that's just was my thing. I mean, but don't get me wrong. There is some networking events that you have to, like I'm into developments and I want to meet other developers.
Mhm.
I understand that aspect of it. But as far as like the actual industry itself, I'm not too big of a fan of any of those. But that's just me,
Oh
right?
yeah.
And I can, I know a good agent that she's all about those events, and she crushes it. She gets referrals, she gets this, she gets that. But it just all boils down to the end of the day is knowing you, right?
Yeah.
What do you like? What are you good at? Do that, and everything else can be delegated.
Well, and I guess on that, like hearing like it if you're in the same room with the same people, not like you're not gonna learn it. I mean, I guess you could, right?
Yeah,
But when you're in a mix with other entrepreneurs, other investors, just everything, you're like picking up things from, like how you said, right? When you got your two leaders, right? You're picking good
yeah,
things and bad things. Oh, the bad things you're putting away, right? But keeping those good things. So I think
yeah.
that's kind of leads it back to that.
It does. And at those events, like then especially the real estate mixers and the happy hours, they're there because they're not producing, right?
Yeah.
Or most of them are there because they're already at a level where they earned that right. Like in the Marine Corps, we came from a place you got to earn it. You got to earn that title. You got to earn your rank. You got to earn your respect. So, I didn't earn anything. So like I just, I'm grinding. I still feel like I haven't earned anything.
Yeah. And that's yeah, man. And I with this guest that I have in, is that's what I keep hearing. It's like I'm still in the learning. I'm still in the learning process. I'm still figuring things out. Like I haven't heard so far someone's like, I know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
at the end it's like that person next to you might know something else that you don't know.
Exactly.
Because
You
that's
know
good.
what? One of the things that but I would say this though. One of the things that has like flipped my script on a lot of things is stop saying no, right? Our natural reaction to everything is no. Hey, you want to hang out on Friday? Nah, I'm
Uh-huh.
busy,
Yeah.
right? But like you haven't really checked. But I started saying yes, but let me check my calendar first,
Yep.
right? So yes, but I started doing that, and then it just started opening me up to different conversations, different people, learning here, learning there, and it's crazy what a yes can do.
Yeah. It's like seeing that movie Yes Man, right?
Yeah,
But
yeah,
it's
yeah.
also finding that balance is like yes, but
It's a yes,
once,
but yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yes, but
Oh man,
it's
dude.
funny.
All right, let's go. Before I forget the whole AI, but I wanted to
Yeah.
ask you, what role does technology play in real estate, and how can other realtors and entrepreneurs leverage that to gain the competitive edge?
If you're Gary V said it best: innovate or die.
Yeah.
So if you're not innovating, if you're not in technology, if you're not getting it up to game with this AI technology, you're gonna get passed up. Like where do I begin? From using like I have an executive assistant, an in-house office assistant, but I know a lot of people that have virtual assistants,
Hmm.
right? Like for example, my coach, one of my social media coaches, would be really mad at me because I'm not recording. Like I usually have a tripod.
Oh
I
yeah.
should have my phone up and it should be recording me. Then I should be downloading it, sending it to my VA. They would take some scripts, put it up on your Instagram as like the quotes for Twitter, or just leveraging that,
Hmm.
right? Using Chat GPT to write descriptions. My last hire, I just hired a team member. Her whole entire job description was based off Chat GPT. So I literally wrote down everything I do, right? So I learned very early that the goal is to delegate, right? So that way you can earn your freedom, earn your weekends. Like, bro, I haven't shown a house in 2 years, and I haven't worked a weekend in 2 years, just
Wow.
because I've been able to leverage myself, right? So what I did was for a whole week straight, Sunday through Sunday, I wrote down everything I do: wash the car, eat groceries,
Hmm.
check my email. Then I looked at it and said, what makes me money? I highlighted it. I said, what do I like to do out of these things that make me money? I'm only going to do these things. Everything else, you can delegate, right? So that list that I had, I uploaded to ChatGPT. Write me a listing description for a personal assistant that has to do this, and then
Shit.
it boom. You know what I mean? And then now act as a hiring manager and create me an ad for. I use an app called Wise Hire, which puts
Hmm.
it out to like LinkedIn, all these other
Okay.
places. Boom, did that. You know what I mean? Like, so you got to leverage it. And then not only that, but I thought, okay, if I can do this for hiring someone, why not use it in real estate? So, like for example, Zoom meetings during COVID, bro, that was the easiest year of my career. Like, I already knew how to use Zoom. I wouldn't even have to go to people's properties, right? I would just say, okay, write down all the things you like about your home. ChatGPT, act as a real estate agent and create me a property description based off this, right? And
Wow.
then it boom, 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 it creates this thing, right? And you'd be able to list houses without even going to it, just having
Yeah.
the conversation on Zoom. So, leveraging technology has been huge, and I'm excited to see where it goes now. Like I use the online calendar system, right? No more like, oh, let me check my calendar. Does Monday work? No. Does
Yeah.
Tuesday work? Okay, yeah, Tuesday. Okay, 10 a.m. or 5 p.m. Dude,
Yeah.
here's the link to my calendar. You pick a time, place, and location that works best for you,
Yeah.
right? But what they don't know is on the back end, it's built off my schedule. So you
Yeah.
can only pick certain times that I allow you to pick.
Yeah.
That's AI to me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So just leveraging technology and AI has been game changing, bro. Game
Yeah.
changing.
Which is funny that you say that, because as I'm right now, as I'm building up for season 2, right?
Yeah.
Right now I'm like connecting with people, and I was like, yeah, what day works for you, blah blah, and I'm like, you know what? And then I see you're like, hey, here's ticket, and I'm like, oh, why haven't I been doing that? Like,
Yeah.
this is my time, make it work, or and stuff like that.
Yeah,
But
exactly. And then if not, like, okay, then try the next day. Try the next day.
yeah,
Like one of those days work for you because it already works for me.
yeah. I also wanted to go back. I feel like I have the same thing, right? Because the whole social media, you have to, it's like Gary Vee, right? I didn't know you've been listening to Gary Vee. I listen to Gary Vee on my ride
Yeah.
to work and everything, but
Yeah.
it's like you have to document everything.
You do.
And then that's for me, it's like when I go in person and I'm like, oh, I should have taken a picture. I should have, like, when I'm going there on my way and the whole setup, and I'm not doing that. And just like you, I should have had another camera kind of recording the
Yeah.
behind the scenes, but
Yeah.
it's like, man, like I gotta work on that and make it better where I can document and do that stuff too.
Yeah. Big thing for me was hiring a on staff videographer company, right? But I don't know if I sent it to you, but I think it's called Spazo.io or something in that nature. But you can upload these videos. AI will automatically cut it and say, oh, I want to post Instagram only. It'll cut it for long form video. It'll put the text on the screen. All you got to do is post it.
Yeah, yeah,
And then you could be like, hey, ChatGPT, write a description based on this thing, and
yeah.
then there's your post, right? And then like we have these other programs my coach turns me on to, my social media coach for it's called Metricool. So it allows you to that's hilarious. Uh
Oh, my daughter.
yeah, that's funny. It allows you to like future post, right? Things online. And so like you could, what we have at our office, we have content days. So we do two things. We always record ourselves no matter what. Just,
Okay.
boom, set up the tripod, before you log on, just press record and just let it do its thing. And then we have content days where I think it's Thursday at 1. We all get together and are individually, and you just record 2 or 3 videos. And that should be your content for the month. So that way you're not and then whatever else you create after that is just filters. You know what I mean? So that
Yeah.
way, our intent is story every day, a minimum of 5 stories a day, because that's how you stay relevant, in my opinion, and 3 posts on Instagram per week. And you
Wow.
just follow that, and people are gonna see you. You're gonna build momentum, and you know, but AI can post it for you.
Yeah.
Virtual assistants can, they just approve it, and then you just send it out.
Yeah, I know you did send that link to me. There's other one I did because I use Adobe Premiere Pro for to edit the
Mhm.
podcast episodes. And that one just kind of just slices for me, who's talking and all that.
Yeah,
And so yeah, so it's like for me, it's like that just took so much time from like sitting there listening to the video,
yeah,
cutting it myself.
yeah,
And
yeah.
then Chat GPT is like, trying to my thing is I'm working on how to better say it, to the AI, because I'm like
Mm,
terrible. I can just be like basic hello or something like that. But now
yeah,
figuring out how to like compose that with the correct wording to
yeah,
get the better results. And that's
yeah,
what I
yeah,
did with that message you sent me. You're like, hey, the podcast, successful podcast, this for the guests and the type of work they do. And I put it in there and it gave me like, questions that I'm like,
everything,
dang, and
everything. Yeah, it's crazy, bro.
yeah. And now it's like instead of asking the same questions to the same people, even though they're not in the same, like whatever job, is now I'm like,
Hmm.
okay, I'm preparing because of who am I gonna meet up next? I'll just create its own little separate questions that it's gonna
Yeah,
ask them. and then it's going to be more personal than just like, well, kind of
Yeah,
like,
generally, how do you
yeah.
add technology in your business?
It's
Like,
like
well,
here says
how do you help
business
it grow?
owner. Yeah.
Yeah.
So here says business owner, but they're not business owner. They're, something else, or a creator or influencer, like,
Yeah.
so yeah, man, it's good stuff right there.
Yeah, it
Um,
is. It is.
I know you
I
mentioned,
love the technology.
yeah, I know you mentioned on one of your posts, I think you were also at a conference that you have like a form set up that when someone calls, or is it like they fill it out that it kind of answers?
Oh yeah, yeah. Oh yeah. That's another aspect that we use. So we have I've been very fortunate to be put in the right places, right?
Mhm.
And a lot of the people I talk to are have already built out $1 billion in sales in real estate. They have already built out a lot of these things. So it's something you can aspire to. And with one of the coaching programs that I was in, their main thing was it was leverage. How do you leverage yourself? How can you be on vacation but your business is still running?
Mm.
Because that's the hardest thing that I feel not only real estate agents but business owners as a whole, they can't afford to get sick because once you get sick your whole business stops. Trust
Yeah.
me, I was there. You can't afford to go on vacation, or if you do go on vacation, you're at the beach like this, like, oh, okay, hold on
Mhm.
guys, let me take this call. You're at Disneyland. Oh, you guys go on the ride, let me just take this thing real quick, right? Because if you don't, who's going to do it, number one, and number two, you're not going to get paid. Now you can't afford the future trips down the road. Now it's scarring you from enjoying those trips, right? So the biggest thing was just the biggest thing in that coaching program was simple. He's going to teach you how to make $1 million a year, 7 figures, and work 4 days a week. But the only way you can do that is through technology and through systems. So one of the big systems I picked up on is you started to figure out what do you do consistently are the same every
Mhm.
single time, right? Every time you come on here, hey DJ, I want to buy a home. Perfect. There's and the script. There's a few questions I want to ask you before we begin. Name, phone number, email. How soon do you want to live in your home? What challenges do you face? How much do you have for the down payment? Blah blah blah. Right? And then somebody else, hey DJ, I want to buy a house. Oh, perfect. There's a few questions I want to ask you.
Mhm.
What's your name? Same thing, right? So we learned how to put it in a form. So Google Forms has it's called Zapier. So I use Zapier,
Mhm.
which
Yeah,
goes
yeah.
into my Google Forms, goes into my database, my email, my Slack, any of those forms, and it'll automatically give the information to my CRM, which is my client management system, right?
Mhm.
And then so now I can, instead of me personally being on the phone and taking those calls, I can just say, here's a link, you fill it out, and it automatically zaps over to the CRM, and then it automatically um, fills in the lead information. So my only purpose, right, going back to my list of just what do I do good at? This. I just need to show up, go over some objections, give them the next steps, on to the next,
Damn.
right? We don't have to. We as business owners want to get caught up on doing everything, control. But let me tell you, it took me 3 years to give up control, right? It took me 3 years to not check my email again. It took me 3 years to not manage my calendar again, right? All of that was a buildup, but once I did, bro, it just freed me up so much time for everything. So, we adapted the motto. So we have a vision statement, a mission statement, and core values, both for clients and for agents. So one of the visions of Beyond the Keys Realty for real estate agents is for everyone to do 30 transactions a year while working anywhere in the world. So
Wow.
we can be on the beach in Cancun or just wherever you want to go. You can be there, and someone says, "Hey, I want to buy a house." Perfect. Fill out this link. That link should get filled out. You should be able to take it, send it to your VA, send it to your personal assistant, and they'll know exactly where to go. Like, because you have your
Yeah.
SOPs, military. Hey, this happens, then this happens. If this doesn't happen, then this has to happen, right? It's just SOPs, and it's just which is what I know now as systems. So the
Mm.
systems kick in. So now they can fill out the form. They can go talk to the lender. The lender will do their thing. Then they'll come back and say, okay, DJ, I already asked how many bedrooms, how many bathrooms during the questionnaire. I already asked what your minimum, what you want to afford as far as monthly payment. The lender said that's going to equal 600, 700, $800,000 home price. I put it in the system. Then I leverage myself because I don't want to work weekends and I
Mhm.
don't want to show houses. So then I leveraged myself and I hired a showing partner. And I said in a group chat, here's a showing partner. You know, for you, our vision for clients, right? We know the vision for agents. Now the vision for clients is our vision for our clients at Beyond the Keys Realty is for you to feel like you're the only person in the world purchasing a home. How can I do that? I looked at every other real estate agent out here, and they're all solo, right? Unless you're part, even if you're part of a team, the lead still goes to the agent. You're at the agent's schedule. The
Mm.
agent's like, "Oh, sorry, it's 7 o'clock. I got to go to dinner." Well, like, you're stuck with that. Or, hey, I'm actually showing houses in Temecula. I can only show you houses on Sunday. Well, as a client, what if I can't go Sunday? I can only go Saturday.
Yeah.
So what we did was we hired showing partners, and now the showing partner is available when the client needs them. Hey, I want to show a house 123 Main Street Tuesday at 3. Perfect. We'll schedule it, show you. While I'm here doing this, building relationships, having growing the company, focusing on money making activities while leveraging a partner to go out and show the properties. And we were only able to do that is through technology, through the Google Forms. She's like, "Hey, DJ, what is she looking for again? Why are you asking?" Go to the
Yeah.
CRM. It has the list of everything they're interested in and build off that, right?
Yeah.
Very, very streamlined. A lot of people think, and one of my coaches told me this. His name's Danny Morel. He said, in business owners, we think people need more of us, but in actuality, they just need more of them. So
Hmm.
if they figure out what they need, it can allow us to take that step back, and then they can go ahead and have the freedom and space as your employee, we'll call it employees. I hate that word. I
Yeah.
only have partners, right,
Yeah.
or fellow relationships with the agents, but they don't need more of me. They just need to handle them, and once they handle their specific goal is show properties, open escrow, show properties, open. That's all you need to do. The rest
Wow.
is history. You know.
Man, dude, you over there killing it, figuring things out, dude, and in
That's
that
just
short,
journey.
like in that amount of time, figuring that out, and of course, going back, it's like, you brought a mentor, but just like, dude, it's like you got to hit it hard and do your thing.
Yeah. You just got you do. You just got to do your thing. Going back to the concept of because one of the main things when you join a coaching program or we go to seminars or we go to
Yeah.
there's analysis by paralysis. Oh, I like this. I like this. I like this. How can I implement everything? And it's like what it took me forever to figure this out. And if I would have figured this out 3 years ago, I would be in a totally different place than I am now. Me, especially someone like me, I want to do all of the things that I'm taught because I know it's going to make me grow.
Yeah.
But sometimes the way that person does it doesn't fit my model or what I'm doing.
Hmm.
So what I used to do is I would try to implement all these things. I would wait a year and say, okay, this worked, this didn't. This worked, this
Hmm.
didn't. But what I learned recently was break it down into per quarter. So if you hear something, you write it down, you implement it on month 1, you do it on month 2, month 3, you evaluate it. You know what? This isn't going to work. This isn't going to help the company. It's just wasting money. Trash, right? And now you're not wasting a whole year
Yeah.
using a system that you're not going to use. Then that's where burnout comes from. And then you're paying money for something you're not using. So like we just started breaking things down, but does this improve our business? And there's a really good book that I listen to a lot of audio. It's very similar to you in the drive to work in the car. It's an executive assistant and executive book and how they can merge the gap together. And me and my assistant, I actually, hey, we're gonna read this book. We're gonna do chapter by chapter, and we're gonna go through that together. I forget. I think it's called the Force Multiplier, if I'm not
Mhm.
mistaken. But it really brought that in together of how we can, leverage each other and make all of these things that we want to implement work. Because essentially, me as the driver, I'm like, no, we're gonna do this. We gotta do this.
Yeah.
But she's gonna take a step back and say, whoa, 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 whoa. this does not fit the direction we're going. Last month we said we're going this way. Now you're trying to go this way.
Yeah,
But for me, I'm always innovative. I'm the innovator.
yeah,
I'm always thinking of the next thing. But having somebody that's not afraid to put their foot down and say, what are you doing? My wife does it all the time. But I mean, it's your wife, right? You'll be like,
yeah,
you don't know,
yeah.
you don't know. But if somebody else tells you, you're like, wait a minute, maybe it doesn't fit, right? And that's just how we're wired. So just playing to your strengths and figuring that out. And there's times where like I come back hyped from an event. This is what we're implementing, and she's like,
Nah,
no, we're not. Like this does not go. We're not implementing it, and we kind
that's
of just go from there.
that's good, man. All
Yeah.
right, man. Jeez, all that knowledge from you, man. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Um, Want to ask here, what advice would you give to entrepreneurs? Um, you know, just who are starting out.
Yeah. Oh man, that's a good one. I do get asked this a lot, and what I would say is, um, I feel like we're scared to go after our dreams, right? Like, I dreams are nothing. I mean, they're
Yeah,
something, right? But you have to have smart goals, right? Turn your dream into a goal, something that is measurable, something that's achievable, something that's retainable, and something that has a timeline attached, right? Because I may be saying this phrase wrong. I do that often, but you know, uh, goals that don't have any of those things are just dreams.
mm,
And everyone says to chase your dreams, but you're on a treadmill and you're just chasing
yeah,
something that you don't have a timeline to. It's not achievable. It's not measurable. You don't see the other person that's done that already. So the best thing I can do give advice as for entrepreneurs, business owners, real estate agents, anything in general, figure out who you want to be, number one. Because if you don't know who you are, then forget about it.
yeah,
Figure out who you want to be. Number two, find the person that is doing what you want to be doing and go straight to them. Hey, can I forget the can I buy you coffee? Can I pick your brain? Bro, 9 times out of 10, those people don't even have 5 minutes for themselves,
yeah,
right? What's wrong with being an intern? What's wrong with being an assistant? You pick up, what's wrong with just being, hey, as real estate agents, go to the number one agent in the company. Hey, this week I'm gonna drive you. Tell what's your calendar, and just sit back and listen. Listen to the
mm,
conversations that's going on in the meetings. Take the notes. Be the person you want to be, because every single step of the way, every conversation, people leave breadcrumbs,
yeah,
but they're invisible breadcrumbs. And sometimes through the journey, through the marathon that we're on, we don't realize all the breadcrumbs that we're picking up until we take a step back to reflect and be like, oh, look how far I have come.
yeah,
But the shortcut to all of that, and take away the time, take away the money, take away all of those things, go directly to the source, to the person that you want to be, and figure out how to be with them 24/7.
all right,
And the rest is just history. You're gonna get so much breadcrumbs, so much knowledge. It's insane. But a lot of us were, closed mouths don't get fed. A lot of us are scared to ask. I get agents all the time. Hey, I want to only work with multi-million-dollar agents. Well, you know, go to that agent, go to
yeah,
those companies, go to those people, and figure out what they need, cure their need, and the doors open up.
yeah, man. Dang, some good stuff right there. For when I
What's up?
listening, that hey, take that. Um, uh, Bro, you've been so knowledgeable. It's great, catching up, of course,
Yeah,
prior to starting the recording, but just seeing everything that you're doing, it's like, man, like uh it's great, especially seeing a like a from fellow brother,
yeah,
just
yeah.
being successful. Like, it's like, man, keep doing your thing, and I won't be there, like cheerleading on the side, right? Because I
I love that.
you
Love
know
that.
seeing that, like
Yeah,
you've seen from day one to like what you're doing, like what changes, you and all the stuff, because like as you're learning, you're putting it out there, and I'm also learning, and I'm trying to figure out, so good stuff.
yeah.
um before I kind of end this, I want this is kind of like the portion of like the podcast where I'm like, this is your time. Say what you want to say. It can be whatever. And make sure to ensure any plugins. Where people can find you. I know we're
Yeah.
here in Utah, but there's people everywhere. So just
Yeah. No, I'm not one to boast or to put me out there, but if you want to find me, super simple, at Real Estate by DJ on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. Um, I'm always social. I feel I live by the philosophy that if you give without having a desire to receive, the universe will reward you tenfold.
mhm,
All the things that you give, the universe is going to deliver it back to you, as long as you're not doing it with a specific intention or a
mhm,
purpose.
yeah,
It's just, I post free game all the time. I'm just me. This is me. You like it, you follow me. You don't like it, all good. And you're right, bro. There's not enough cheerleaders. The from our family, from our friends. So, I salute you. I mean, I can never do a podcast host, bro. So yeah, I salute you on that, man. And thank you for having me on. I'm truly blessed to have a brother like you, be connected.
yeah,
And, whatever you need, I got you. I know whatever I need, you got me.
yeah,
We are one. And
yeah.
that's what I love about this. And, that's where you can find me on Instagram. And, until then, I'm out.
All right, out. Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Yep. Appreciate you, bro.